Good evening and welcome to Momentous Live, episode 87. I'm Tristan Jutra.
I'm Tasia Custody.
And I'm Jamie Reynolds.
What? My
I
mind is...
know. Nobody said anything to anybody. I just showed up.
He's back again.
Mhm.
Special guest Jamie Reynolds here filling in for Gray Williams, who is in an undisclosed location. Will Silver, who is attending to some urgent family matters, and leaving just Tasia and me. We had to fend for ourselves, just the two of us, the TNT Power Hour last week. But luckily, Jamie, you were available this week.
I decided to deign my presence to you tonight.
We appreciate
just to
it so much.
just to give you guys a break from having to just go mono.
It was a lot of just awkward silences.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
People like watching that these days. That's like the new kind of content. It's just awkward silences.
True.
If you want to find out more about Momentous, you can visit us at momentous.tv/links, where you can find links to all our socials. But let's get... Or Tasia, I hit the wrong button and now we got a Tasia link on there.
Yeah.
No way. I'm bad at my job. All right. We've got some follow-up to start with. It seems like a lifetime ago when everyone was talking about Wordle all the time. Remember that? Was that like January, February last year? Everyone was like...
A simpler time.
Yeah, posting their Wordle scores.
Mm-hmm.
Help get us through the latter days of the pandemic, which is totally over, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently, after the New York Times bought Wordle, a lot of people were sharing their theories that they have changed it. They made it harder. And truth be told, the New York Times didn't really do anything for the first several weeks to Wordle. They did eventually tweak the word list a little bit. You know, they scanned it for potentially problematic words. But ever since then, it's been mostly hands off. Well, now we've seen the biggest changes coming to Wordle. No more plurals. Stop the presses, everyone. No more plurals in Wordle.
Slow news week.
Yeah, exactly. And they've officially moved from the original creator, Josh Wardle's word list to an official New York Times word list. So, Jamie, are you still playing Wordle? Did you ever play Wordle?
No, I did. Yeah, I played Wordle, and then I got into Quirtle. Which was a bit more challenging. You solve 4 words at once. And then my son, Alex, is a big geography guy. He's always loved geography since he was a little kid. He got me onto Wordle, which is a mouthful, but and I sucked at it. I so sucked at it. He could get them almost every time, but
it was hard. Yeah,
it was really hard. It was surprisingly hard.
Oh yeah, that's totally Albania.
Huh? Yeah. I just, I felt pretty dumb. It made me feel pretty dumb, but maybe I am. So, and then, it's just like with anything, you just get bored. And so my theory about this is that they've actually made the change. They're like, okay, what can we do to get Wordle back into, we paid all this money for it. I don't know how much money they paid for it. How can we get Wordle back into people's heads? Just so they realize, oh yeah, I forgot to play that. And I can start it up again just to get that ad revenue generated again. That's the only reason I can think, but why this is such a big deal, I don't know. Actually, this is the first time I heard of it, is actually you bringing it up for the show tonight. So maybe it's not that big of a deal.
Well, not whatsoever. It's just a little bit of follow-up, just to I don't know, to just get us warmed up a little bit. Tasia, did you ever play Wordle? And if so, are you still, or any of its weird non-official variants?
No, I actually did not get into it. My mom did, and we would cackle like trying to solve stuff together, and we were not great at it.
I still, every once in a while, I still see someone posting Wordle scores on Facebook nowadays. I'm like,
oh, really?
What are you doing?
Who
even?
You still go on Facebook?
Well, that's
I still go on Facebook.
Yes. Well, we will be talking about that in a little bit. Another little bit of follow-up, and it's follow-up in the sense that, Tasia, you just had a video on Gmail recently, and you can take the opportunity to refresh us on that. But apparently there was a new interface. I'm not a Gmail user myself, but they rolled out a new interface recently, and now it's here to stay. You want to give us a little update on that?
Yeah, they just changed, the colors, the shape of I guess what I would call like, design UI update type things. Like it was like was like, it's really not that jarring,
Mhm.
to be honest. So, but of course, people hate it whenever there's any type of change, and people say like, "How do I get back to the original Gmail?"
Mhm.
So I think they call it like the integrated layout. Um, you could choose, and you could easily like revert back, but they're going to start. It was like a soft launch basically, but eventually they want everybody to just be looking at the same Gmail layout. They're doing it all so that you can have like a better interface from like one spot and do more right from your inbox. So it's got like some more toggles, but it's pretty much business as usual. I like it.
And it seems like they're going for the Microsoft Outlook sort of approach, keeping everything integrated into one, having your calendar right there, and just all the stuff there, like as opposed to having different interfaces, different tabs. Like I remember back in the day, like in the early 2000s, I used to use something called Microsoft Entourage, which was basically
Mm.
the Mac version of Outlook that Microsoft had done for the Mac for some reason. I'm not sure why they just didn't do Outlook. There was another, they did have Outlook as well, and this was trying to be something a little different, and that was like a super app where it had everything in one. And then I moved away from that, went to the Apple native apps where there were separate calendar apps, separate contacts apps, separate mail app, and so forth. And it seems to, the trends seem to go back and forth, but Outlook has been pretty consistent with everything in one place. And it seems like that's what Gmail is doing here. Now, when did you switch your interface over for yourself, Tasia?
As soon as it was available. It was
All right.
a few months
Rip the
back.
Band-Aid off, get used to it.
Yeah, well, I wanted to see what it looked like and see like what actually the new, if any type of like feature, like whenever people hear the word like new layout,
Oh.
they assume they assume stuff shifts and it means actual changes in the layout. It
Mhm.
it really, I call it more of like a design UI functionality interface maybe, because everything is where you remember it. Like it's not like, they didn't do a switcheroo on you. So it kind of, their colors change a little bit, the softness on the edges of some like, you know, bubbles. I don't even think that's what you would call them, changed a little bit. Um, but it was interesting because I got it first available to, I have like a bunch of different accounts, and one is like my business account, and that I got the rollout first. So when it happened, I was like, "Oh, sure, I'll try it." And it's a very easy toggle. You could toggle it on, toggle it off. And I was like, "Oh, I like it." And then as soon as it was available for my personal Gmail, I toggled it on and never looked back.
And just to plug it once again, we talked last week very briefly about the video that you had done on Gmail, a specific feature of Gmail. Do you want to just give us a quick refresher on what that was?
Oh, a couple weeks ago?
Well, we talked about it last week. It was the one you had posted the Thursday before. Gmail labels, I think.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I went into depth and kind of did like a whole beginner's guide into like what labels are, how to use labels, how to add labels to emails in Gmail, how to sort them. You can add multiple labels to Gmail. I mean, I literally do a deep dive into it. And so that's the new interface that you're looking at in this video. So that's what most people will be seeing if they're not toggled onto that already. And that left-hand panel there, that where like you have your compose and your inbox and all that kind of stuff, you can just collapse that with the hamburger menu icon or expand that back out. I leave mine expanded, but some people like their emails in like a fuller view, fuller page view. It's total preference, but that's the kind of new lookout that apparently tripped a lot of people up because they just like things the way they are.
All I know is
But
that it
it's
pleases.
nice, it's
Yeah.
functional, it's, I don't know, like, it's really hard when I say things like, "It's easy on the eyes," like, I don't, it's hard to, like, put it into words, but it's, again, it's not a function change in terms of, like, things you're used to where they are. It's a function change in terms of adding extra features, but, like, nothing's changed in terms of, like, what people are going to know. Like, your inbox basically looks the same, the colors are a bit different, your side menu looks a little bit different. It's not a big deal.
It just pleases me to no end that the term hamburger menu has stuck around for as long as it has. I just think it's
Mhm.
one
It's
of the,
great.
the
Yeah.
glories of modern user
It's
interface
great.
design. So we can find Tasia's videos at youtube.com/Tasia Custodi. Jamie,
Mm.
you have a Gmail account.
I have a Gmail account, yes, and I
Uh-huh.
use it once in a while. It's sort of it's like an extra account that I use for kind of business things, but not front-facing business things. And then I have my regular business email that is just an IMAP, server-based email. And it's just a lot of. I keep thinking it might be nice to just move everything over to using the Gmail interface, but honestly, I don't know if I can have my own domain worked in with Gmail. I'm sure I can somehow, that kind of stuff. Yet Tasia nodding her head. I see that.
She gets paid per nod by Google.
Yeah, exactly. There's just so many other things that I'm just doing that it's just such a minor detail. I don't want to complicate things for other employees and all this kind of stuff. So it's just like, back burner. When things are really, really quiet, then I can look at those kind of things. But right now, everything's all on Outlook and server based.
In the last actually, it's not it's the last minor bit of follow-up before we get into our major follow-up category this week. And this is from a couple of weeks ago, but I included this especially for our special guest and official UFO/UAP correspondent, Jamie Reynolds, and that NASA announced its UAP research team to examine mysterious sightings. So we've been talking ever since the beginning of Momentous Live about these phenomena that had been identified by the U.S. Navy and that had leaked initially, and then they actually had to make some formal statements on it. Jamie, can you just give us the quick Cole's notes on this? And
sure.
Perhaps what this new panel actually, what it means now that NASA is stepping in. Are we going to...
Yeah, I did a little bit of reading on that when that happened, and so the UAP thing just seems to be there's been a bit of a paradigm shift over the last few years about people realizing that there seems to be things in the sky that are actually unexplained. We've gotten better technology for finding. For sensing things, for looking at different things, taking pictures of things, and we still have a lot of things that are unexplainable and unexplained by people who are, really prominent, high-level people in government positions and in airline pilots, these kinds of things, and people are more comfortable coming forward. So it's becoming more and more societally acceptable to talk about these things and not have the X-Files theme played every time it's brought up on the news. So it's more, people are kind of saying, okay, there's something going on. Maybe we need to research these things just so we understand what they are. Maybe it's Chinese drones or Russian drones or something we're not aware of. And some of them actually seem to be, but there's still some of these unidentified aerial phenomena that are that seem to really defy the current technology that anybody seems to have on the planet. So nobody seems to know how these things do what they do. So it's becoming more of at least in the US, it's becoming more of a national security issue. And I think in the Congress in the US, they've pushed and said, look, let's just figure out what these things are. Let's talk to the Defense Department and say, hey, are there secret programs that you're running that we don't know about? And there seems to be a lot of pushback to not get much information from their end. There becomes a lot of speculation about what these things could be, whether it's space visitors from other planets or people from other universes, or cross-dimensional beings, all these kinds of crazy things. For me, I'm just interested in the unknown, and so if it's space aliens, great. If there's ideas of other strange things going on, whatever it is, NASA's getting into it because I think that they can get funding for it. and from what I can tell, it's very little funding. It's like $100,000 or something minimal. It's just nothing, or maybe $1 million based on the entire budget.
Throw a couple interns at it and see what happens.
Yeah. So I don't think it's that much.
Oh no.
He said too much.
He said too much.
Yeah, they're on to me.
You're back now.
Jamie, blink once if you're okay.
No, I'm all good. So in any case, it seems like it's just becoming something that the public wants to know more about, and something that people want to know more about. And so NASA's saying, okay, sure, we'll check it out and try and see if we can figure out what these things are. And that's all. I just want to know what the stuff is. I think it's just really interesting. And it could be some weather phenomena we don't know about, and it could be something from space, just something benign that just comes into the atmosphere and moves around, and we had no idea it existed. The unknown is always fascinating to me, and rather than assume it's going to be space aliens, I think people at NASA, like me, just want to know what it is. Hey, oh, this is an unknown. Let's try and figure out. Let's try and make it a known entity.
Well, definitely over the last couple of years, the stigma about discussing UFOs/UAPs has really started to fade away now that official government agencies like the U.S. Navy and NASA are taking it seriously to pursue the truth and figure out what is behind these unknown phenomena. Tasia, if you're a betting woman, what would you say? What do you say these UAPs are?
I'm guessing there are explanations for them all that aren't otherworldly, but I would also be very interested to see. Because here's my thing. The only reason I say that is because if there is more intelligent beings than us, and they are out there,
wouldn't be hard.
True. Why haven't they come here yet and landed and said hello, or like what? Like, I feel like there would just be a bit more than like an object in the sky. like what's their end game here? Hundreds of thousands of years of just flying around. Like,
yeah, they don't like rare meat. They're waiting till we've properly cooked ourselves with climate change. So
right.
Yeah, there's interesting theories though. There's interesting theories about this. That some say that really it's humans aren't the original dominant species on this planet, right? It was the dinosaurs for a long time, and they evolved and they did their own thing. They just didn't get to a level of intelligence we've gotten to. But there's possibly other planets, other planets where that original species actually evolved and stayed evolved and then got intelligent and then has evolved since then over millions of years. And it would kind of be, and they've gotten to the point where they look at us the way we would say, look at lizards and say, well, why would we even bother trying to communicate with these things? We can't communicate with them. So they're just kind of fancy monkeys, but they're just interesting to look at. And maybe there's other planets out there that have a really interesting life forms that are way better than us. I think we might actually be very boring.
So Jamie, there's a good, not to sidebar too far on this.
Go for it.
There's a really good.
I love sidebars.
You know how Netflix brought back Unsolved
Mysteries? Oh, yeah.
So did you watch, was it the season 1 that they had or whatever? There's a whole episode on that features people that claim that they were like abducted or or like had experiences or whatever. It's interesting to say.
It is, because these are disparate people who have had similar experiences, and all in one town, I think it was. And you can't just dismiss a lot of these things. And there's a new Unsolved Mysteries that came out, the new season of it, and with a new UFO mystery about people who saw these things up in the sky. Thousands of people saw these triangular shaped objects going at crazy rates of speed, doing different things, hovering outside of homes for hours on end. But this was from a couple of decades ago, before, again, cameras, that sort of thing too. But again, for me, I do need, like, I'm evidence-based. I'm an evidence-based person. So I can't just, somebody comes to me and says, well, you know what, Bigfoot exists. I know Bigfoot exists. He's, I've seen the fur. I'm sure I have evidence here that if a reputable scientist tested it, they could tell me that it was a real thing. But scientists,
we've all seen the kokanee commercials.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, wow. That's going back a bit there. So for me, I think there needs to be just more of this evidence, because, realistically speaking, any of the video and photos that we have seen, it's all like it's all pretty blurry, grainy
Mhm.
stuff that it doesn't really give us that crazy evidence. And now with the technology we have to fake these things, who knows what's real? So there has to be some decent evidence of technology or something that we can hold and say, look, we have this, we don't get it, and nobody seems to get it, and this, we know this is something from somewhere else, something that's been designed elsewhere. But there's theories that there's a whole species that evolved before us and is still on the planet and is hidden away somewhere in the ocean or whatever, and they have these craft that they use that come out of the water, which is again part of the theory that these things are they go through multimedia mediums, so they can go from water to air and without any issues, that sort of thing. So it's crazy stuff, but hey, who knows? Who knows? I would put money on it just being something we just don't understand. And I'm not closing any doors. I don't think there's a probability of anything. I just know that we're a very young species, and if life does exist elsewhere, there's probably some of it's evolved quite a bit longer than we have. Oh, you're Tristan.
Tristan, you're muted.
I just unmuted myself. I had
Yeah.
to cough.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate
The
that.
communication gap that you allude to, Jamie, is somewhat analogous to that which we have between humans and cetaceans, because by all accounts, dolphins and whales seem to be pretty intelligent, have big old brains, but they live such a different sort of existence that we do. And, they don't have opposable thumbs, and they don't have smartphones, and they don't have Netflix. So their frame of reference is so different, and the way they communicate is so different. So there's been some very basic achievements in terms of communication, but there's so much to untangle there. So why wouldn't it be the case that a totally alien species to us wouldn't have a similar kind of communication gap with us if they evolved in a very different sort of environment, and language and just brain, like so much of language is based on like how our brain is developed, and even like the diets
Well,
we've eaten, and the
and we're
environments we've
talking about here,
evolved in.
these are other mammals that have evolved with us on the same planet, and we can't communicate with them. Even other primates, same kind of idea. We can't communicate with them. So again, having another species out there, thinking they have the same motivations we do about wanting to communicate, wanting to explore other things. They maybe just don't even care. They're just, oh, this is an interesting, they're just going to look at what's going on and zip around. And actually the thing that I think makes the most sense to me, I would put money, if I had to put money on it, I would say these are autonomous vehicles, because the way that we're going to explore our galaxy and the rest of the universe is having self-replicating vehicles that just continue to go out, and then they rebuild new ones, that they go out further, new ones that go out further, so on and so on and so forth ad infinitum. And then that's how you can actually efficiently explore a galaxy. So my guess is that's similar to what we have visiting here, just kind of probes that are just checking things out and sending data back to wherever.
And do the creators of those vehicles, do they still exist? Are they even alive? How many?
No, they do.
But I mean, if what you say is true, and we've got machines building machines, how many? I mean, the original creators could have died off hundreds or thousands of years ago, and these probes are still doing their thing.
Yes,
right? Like,
exactly.
You start thinking about it too much, it's like, oh boy, and and we don't even smoke pot. And you can tell
it's absolutely true.
They said the word pot and not weed.
Yes.
Nowadays.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever really looked at your hand? Anyhow, so you know who could probably solve this conundrum just better than anyone else in our known universe?
I'm all ears.
It could be Elon. Could be Elon Musk, you think?
I knew you were going with that. Oh boy.
Because he's going to fix Twitter, and Tasia and I were almost reluctant to revisit this, because we what's the equivalent of spilling ink? Like, ran our mouths off on the whole Twitter acquisition that finally happened last week, and talking about various issues and what we thought might occur, and it's like he had to catch the ball because he was legally obliged to, that $44 million football, and it's like fumble, and they're trying to do things to address the concerns that he had raised regarding bots and user verification and all this kind of stuff, and try to enable free speech while keeping people free from harassment and giving people controls and all this kind of stuff. But it's like it's only been a few days, and like so much has happened. It's like Twitter years, and it's like are like dog years. It's crazy. So, what I'm going to do here, just in the interest of expediency, because we don't want to beat this to death more than necessary, but I'm just going to give you a sampling of the stories that have come out just in the last few days, and we can cherry pick these. And I'll start with Tasia on this. So, one, Twitter to delay verification changes until after midterm elections. That's one story, because there was concerns that we could be interfering with potential election results if all of a sudden you're being shown to favor certain people over others in letting them get verified. The idea is that with Twitter Blue, last week we talked about how they were moving from $5 US a month to $8 US a month, and you would get a verification blue check mark for that. We were hoping at that time that meant that there was actually going to be an identity verification scheme, but no, they're just selling the badges for $8 a month. It's like, you had one job. So, but they postponed it until after the U.S. midterm elections, which are happening as we speak. And I mean, I don't even want to look at Twitter at the moment, because I'm sure it's a disaster. All the hand wringing. What else? Twitter said to add gray check marks as well as blue for official accounts. So in addition to having your little blue check mark by paying $8 a month for Twitter Blue, which also will be enabling other services for you, as we've discussed last week, this is other gray check mark that verifies that it's official. So kind of like what Facebook and Instagram have too, once you have verified an account. So why they're making these two different things is kind of beyond me. They're making it more complicated than necessary. It's like, because the problem with the blue check mark is that it's kind of conferred this special status on people, almost this elitist category, whereas to a lot of regular people, we feel like this should just mean you are who you say you are, and that you're not like part of some preferred class, the lords and the serfs, as Elon referred to it last week. In other news, Elon says Twitter will permanently ban users that impersonate accounts. Some people feel this is because a lot of blue check Twitter people were changing their usernames to some sort of variation of Elon Musk just to troll him a little bit, and then he was perhaps reacting against that. So there you go. That's a new policy on the fly, very reactive. Twitter tells advertisers that user growth is at all-time highs under Elon Musk. So how many people have signed up for Twitter or revisited Twitter because they're just wanting to, with their popcorn handy, waiting to see what happens there? That could be very well part of it. Because part of the other side of the story is so many the advertisers have been fleeing Twitter as because they see a lack of stability. So the volatility is happening. One story that we didn't really get into last week and failed to include this week was, there was reports of, as soon as Elon Musk took over, there was reports of, the increase of use of ethnic slurs, such as the N-word, increased by, thousands of percent, overnight. And people are like taking this as proof that Elon was irresponsible and had, that Twitter was going to be, a mess under his purview. But what many of those reports failed to mention, or they didn't update those stories, is that there was actually a coordinated attack from 4chan. And there was a whole sorts of bots that were doing that on purpose to make the whole transition even more chaotic. But the mainstream news sources, get into that? No. So of course, all these people who maybe lean one way or the other politically, they're just using it to reinforce their own narratives about what a poop show the current Twitter situation is until things hopefully settle down. Also, what happened on Friday, and this was again a bad look. Twitter laid off about half of its employees. And they would be, they were informed of this earlier in the week, and then they would basically find out at 9 a.m. on Friday morning Pacific time whether or not they could log into their work accounts. It was I get, and this is not necessarily unique to Twitter. Like a lot of companies, especially in tech, they have a very sudden and what seems like an extreme way of dealing with layoffs and firings, especially mass ones, because they're very legitimate concerns about data integrity and security and sabotage and all sorts of things like that. So but again, because Elon has fallen from grace in many people's eyes after having been, the savior of the world with Tesla, and he was going to solve climate change and all that. A lot of people who formerly were big Elon fans, because he's, spouted some other views that are kind of that they didn't like. Now, any opportunity to pile on, they're taking, regardless of the fact that this is kind of par for the course for a lot of other large companies, no matter how unsavory it might be. Now, the follow up to this, however, is you know, they say that when you make cuts, you want to cut as deep as you can and maybe a little deeper than you need to. And then you can always hire people back, because the last thing you want to do is cut 10% here, 15% there. And then you've got this sort of Damocles hanging over your employees for months and months. So it's better to like rip the Band-Aid off. And then if you need to hire more people afterwards, then that's something you do. It's better take the pain sooner than later. Well, in Twitter's case, it's a little extreme. It's like literally a day or two later, they're like, "Oh crap, we cut too deep. We need, there's some stuff there's some jobs that we need done that we let go of everyone that can do those jobs." So now they're asking some folks to come back, and they're using Twitter to do outreach in some cases, or asking people to call their former colleague. It's just another symptom of this entire kind of mess. In other news, Elon has discussed putting all of Twitter behind a paywall, so making it an entirely subscription-driven service, which is interesting. And if that was the case, maybe we wouldn't see ads anymore. That would be kind of exciting, because the idea with Twitter Blue, you would see maybe half the ads you were. I mean, I wish they would make it no ads whatsoever. But Twitter as a totally subscription service, it would be a smaller service for sure. But again, how many people would pay to still access Twitter? When we think about how many celebrities, politicians, athletes, so many high profile people and journalists, and we've talked about in the past Twitter's outsized cultural impact due to the fact that some of its biggest users are in those groups that we mentioned. So we're going to take a deep breath. I'm going to start with you, Tasia. Of all this stuff that's happened in the last few days, since we last spoke about this, what jumps out at you as being something that you would like to share your thoughts on?
A couple of them. So them delaying, the verification changes is what, these headlines all are. Basically the $8 subscription model. A lot of people took that as like, oh, look, here he goes again, and he's flip-flopping and blah, 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 blah. So far, and I tweet into the void anyway, so I'm probably on the minority of this, but like, so far, there really haven't been any changes to the platform, like, since he took over, except there's more people complaining about it. And it's like, on the platform complaining about it, which I always find wild. Like, you're still on here using it. Like, what? But I do understand like the reasoning to postpone this. Things are like super divisive. Today is election day, by the way, in the States. So it's like very divisive. And I can understand the concern of trying to limit misinformation. There's already a ton of it happening, a lot here in this state alone. I'm in Arizona. And so it's like trying to quiet all that noise. But in my mind, it should serve as like a pausing thought for him and the team to be like, okay, if we have to pause this idea, then what makes us think this is going to stop the problem? Because his whole argument up to now is paying this and having this verification thing and all this kind of stuff is supposed to help squash misinformation, which I don't understand how that's connected at all. Then, we talked about the free speech thing, which you touched on, which is hilarious because like Valerie Bertinelli and like a bunch of other celebrities just changed their names to Elon Musk and started like retweeting like Democratic accounts and like all kinds of stuff. And it was hilarious. And he did not like that. And they all got suspended. And then he came out in a tweet and said, you will be like permanently banned if you parody account without saying you're parodying it. That's right. But that's the whole argument, is what people are trying to say. Like his whole argument with the verification thing and free speech, that's the whole point of them putting his name as their handle, and not even their handle, it's just their name, and being like, oh, well, you said I have free speech, so I can say this, and I have a check mark, so that means that's what the service is going to be, a check mark. I can be any name I want.
Which just shows you how crazy it is that the checkmark doesn't actually mean that they are who they say they are. Like, do it right. You made your own bed. Like, yeah.
That's the point. So I feel like I'm frustrated a little bit with him in terms of like 99%, it's just like, I love the innovation, I love his ideas, I love the energy, no matter how sporadic perhaps. But it's like, then every once in a while he'll tweet something ridiculous and you'll just think, what is he talking about? Like, this doesn't correlate. Like, you say it's because Twitter needs revenue, and that's fine, and he said that, but that's completely different than, and also it's going to stop bots and misinformation. No, it's not. They do not relate in any way. So it's just really wild that's, I would think this would serve as a bit of a sign that that doesn't work, based on the fact that they had to postpone the whole idea till after midterms because things are too divisive. What does that tell you? Like, that's your answer. So does he just know he's walking into creating something where it's just like a bougie, vanity, pay to play type thing? I don't know, because then there's very interesting stuff he tweets about. He'll beat, like, monetization and ad offerings. He'll beat YouTube on it. So he wants to turn Twitter, like Tristan and I talked about this last week about, is he trying to turn Twitter into like the
Super app.
WeChat or whatever? Yeah, the super app. And it's just, there's so many things I find interesting, but then it's like, but I don't have to pay to play on YouTube and I can get ad revenue. You know what I mean? So like, if I'm paying to play on Twitter and I'm already tweeting into the void, what's that monetization stream going to look like? So it's just very interesting that then he adds this new gray, their official badge.
Yeah, it's like,
do you have to pay for that too? Who can
simple.
get the official badge? How do you apply for that? Like, it's just,
Apparently that's
it's
going to be like
almost
corporations and official government organizations and things like that
right.
too. And apparently that's something that they decide and not you. And I don't know if you can lobby them. I think a lot of this stuff is still in the works. One of the things about changing your name that they have said is that if you change your name, you will temporarily lose your blue check mark, at least for a little while, until, I don't know, I'm not sure until when, and maybe till you change it back or whatever. So they're just trying to discourage people from playing games like
which
that.
is smart.
Yeah. So Jamie, I know that we've talked about Twitter over the years, and there was the longest while where you said, I just don't get Twitter. And I know that you were a light Twitter user from what I'm one of your followers.
Thank you very
so,
much.
So I imagine that you view this with maybe a certain amount of detachment, but from those stories that we've looked at so far, and I know that I'm sure you've been following Elon Musk in the news over the last number of years, as have we. Which of these stories that we touched on kind of speak to you? Would you wish to comment on? Because I also know that you are, believe in, free speech, which relates to freedom of thought and, combating narratives, but also the problem with the information environment, disinformation, misinformation, and the like, and how complicated it all is. So what speaks to you from all these stories?
Well, I have thoughts.
Here we go.
I'll try and keep it brief because we don't need to make this whole thing about Twitter. First of all, Twitter is not the real world. Twitter is something that people go to, and not everybody is on Twitter. Not, I'm on Twitter. I'll look at it once in a while. I mostly follow some news stuff, just interesting things. But I'm not a big fan of hearing people's hot takes on things or seeing flame wars or any of these things that go on. But what I do try and do on Twitter is I do try and follow people of different ideological backgrounds. It's a place where I can have my own ideas questioned. That's how I try and use the internet in general. Is I really have put a concerted effort into trying to break down any silos I have built to protect myself from other ideas that might not jive with how I do things. So this is where I think Elon is coming from. He's saying, hey, look, this Twitter has turned into a very left-wing platform where it's basically taken a whole section of the population and said, unless you have this left-wing ideology, your ideas aren't really welcome here. It's not going to be encouraged. A lot of that philosophy seems to have been what he's kind of saying. So in coming back and having this resurgence of people joining in, I think is people maybe coming from the opposite side of the ideological aisle and saying, hey, I'm going to come back to Twitter then if I can actually say things that I believe are true that you might not believe on the other side, but let's have this back and forth, this discussion. There's a lot of people that don't want that. They want to have their little silo. They only want to follow people they only want to be exposed to people that believe what they believe. They're not interested in having their ideas challenged, which I think is wrong. And I think we should always be challenging our ideas. And then this is where the free speech comes in. Free speech is a convoluted term. So for me, free speech in its basic sense is basically you can say things against the government and not have any consequences. That's what the basics of, especially in the US, is what free speech is. When it comes to free speech on a private platform like Twitter, you can say whatever you want, but there will be consequences. And this is what I think Elon is saying. Yeah, go ahead and say what you want, but if you say things that go against our terms of service, there's going to be consequences, and we can cut you off the platform. That's totally fine. So free speech is, I think it's important to have ideas that are out there and encourage them, but that does not absolve you from having a consequence from what you say. So if you try and impersonate somebody who's on the platform and try and abuse your privileges that you've been given on this private platform, yeah, there might be some consequences. So complaining that, oh, well, I thought you liked free speech. Well, yeah, he does, but it doesn't mean that you get away with anything you want at that point.
And the interesting thing is he comes in it, like, at least ideologically somewhat from the left. He's a left-leaning libertarian, like, so, but he's been embraced by a lot of people on more like right-leaning libertarians because of the libertarian kind of side of it. But like in terms of social policy and stuff like that, he's generally been a creature of the left. Hence his embrace by the left when it came to things like Tesla and whatnot. But now, he's challenging people's expectations of what he actually is. So, he's become persona non grata to a lot of folks.
Which I think is wrong. I think, again, what we have to do, and I think it's what we've fallen into this trap of, if you like somebody, let's say you like listening to what Elon says, but then he says something that's right wing, and I always thought he was a lefty. All of a sudden he becomes persona non grata because of one idea that you disagree with. That makes no sense. It should always be, hey, let's listen to people, let's listen to their ideas, and then critique their ideas. If all their ideas suck, well, then you can just kind of ignore them. But if they've got ideas that are different than yours, you can't just cut them off and say, oh, well, you have one bad idea, therefore you don't agree with my philosophies, my ideology, therefore I don't listen to you anymore. And this is, I think, where we're losing some of this in society these days, where it's okay for having people confront you with different ideas and not just say, oh, well, because you believe that, therefore you're evil and you're on the wrong team and I won't listen to you anymore. And this is what's happening with Twitter right now with Elon. People are saying, oh, well, I don't like that you believe this certain idea, therefore I'm leaving your platform. It's just it's odd to me. I just find it very strange, since I like having the different ideas. Some of them I think are stupid, but it's okay. It's good to have these ideas out in the open.
For example, I still love you, even though you dislike She-Hulk Attorney at Law. Like, it's okay.
God.
We can
want to get into that? We can get into that. That is
it's just an example. It's just an example,
yes.
right?
Yeah,
but the ability to have constructive discourse and not devolve into flame wars so quickly, like we go from 0 to 60 so quickly on stuff. So I think there's a lot still to come. As they kind of figure things out. Unfortunately, it's just a bad look right now because they seem to be fumbling around, and because there's this extraordinary amount of transparency that we don't normally get into a regular organization that goes through this kind of acquisition process, and it's being done kind of live in real time. So of course people are going to pick their team and either go Elon or boo Elon, and all these people going to Mastodon and other places. Like, yeah, good luck with Mastodon. It hasn't changed much in years and years, and it's not for non-technical
But you know what
people.
I'm just realizing? This is so it's kind of like, how politics has turned into a form of entertainment. It's almost like Elon is trying to usher in some sort of corporate entertainment, a sort of a corporate, like when he walked into Twitter with his sync and let that sink in. Like it was all done for the show. It
Yeah.
was all done for entertainment. And this is, it feels like that's what's happening now. So the way that the politics and Trump brought everything was this became this big show, or things became much more about seeing what stupid things he said. Elon's sort of doing the same thing now.
Yeah.
And this is what it's almost like he feels like this is a new way to sort of run a company, is to be as entertaining as possible.
It's like, get back
Whether
to
you love him or
rockets.
hate him,
Yeah.
you just you know, it just, hey, he's here, he's the center of the circus, and just keep watching. That's
And
kind
he
of
seems to
feels
like
what's
the
going on.
attention. You know,
He really does. Oh yeah.
So, Tasia, any thoughts on what Jamie said, or any of the other stories that we've touched on so far? Whether it's regarding some of the the verifications, the bans, the paywalls, and so on.
No, I mean, I think maybe we use Twitter in a bit of different ways. I am on it quite a bit. This sounds really bad when I say this out loud. I do get most of my news from Twitter. I don't mean that
depends
as
on who you
in
follow, right? Like, that's the thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's what Tristan's always preached of, like, you kind of make your own network on any of these platforms, but I think specifically Twitter, in terms of like it's based on who I'm following. So that's honestly where like all my breaking news comes from, pretty much. And then once I see something on there, then I will go more into depth and like research that if needed, or see like, what's this about? Is this true or not true?
And how much of that in breaking news is from TMZ again?
I actually don't follow them on Twitter. I know, it's wild. I'm very like, sometimes I just like to, I don't know, certain platforms.
You're all about
I
the
use for different
Kardashians, right?
things.
Yeah, you just follow them
Oh.
directly.
No, it's Taylor Swift.
Oh, Taylor
Thank you
Swift.
very much.
Yeah,
I'm in the
right.
Taylor camp. Okay,
Gotcha.
real talent.
You're
Yeah,
Swifty.
Yeah.
But we got at least 2 Kardashians that are billionaires. So,
yeah.
Well,
so
I
what is
tried
now?
to be one, but I didn't win the Powerball. So
Yeah.
So that brings us to the next question. If Elon's currently floating the idea of making Twitter a purely pay to play type thing, whereby you would have to pay to be involved in Twitter at all. And there could be different degrees of this. It could be free to view, and maybe you have to pay if you actually want to tweet, so on. But we'll see if this is a real idea of just a trial balloon or what. My question to you, Tasia, and to you, Jamie, and I'll start with you, Jamie, is what, if any, social platform that currently exists would you pay to remain a part of?
So, on all of the social platforms, again, if you're not paying for it already, you're the product. We all know that. So we're being advertised to. So I don't know, probably YouTube, I'm guessing, would be one that is, if you want to call that a social platform, but I guess you would. Yeah,
social video,
yeah. I find that kind of content is what I enjoy consuming. I enjoy seeing what people create there.
Lots of value there,
Yeah. I don't know. Other than that,
how about on the networking, the social networking side? So whether it's
I don't know.
the Twitter, the Facebook, the LinkedIn, the Instagram. I mean, there are
to
different
pay
flavors
for
of
it?
networking.
Yeah, I realize that. Yeah, to pay for it again,
Yeah.
I don't use LinkedIn. I was on it the other day, just seeing what was happening, and I don't see the point of that kind of environment for. Well, I've used it
For your
for
sort of business
here and
perhaps,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe a little bit here and there, but
Yeah.
again, to pay for it, it doesn't seem to really make sense. I don't see value in Facebook, especially. Again, Facebook was geared around advertising, so it's hard to really say. And again, I think I'm just getting too old now too. So I don't know how I'm old and I'm wise, but I'm also cranky. And so I'm like, I don't need that garbage in my life. I get rid of it. And again, all the negative things you hear about social media, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing to get to actually say, oh, if I got to pay to use it, I'm just not going to use it. And then
a great
walk
filter
away from
right
it.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, it might be a nice, great filter for a lot of these things. But again, it's more about the kids and
someone remember the children.
Well, but it's true. Again, it's there's been so much damage done to the kids from all the reading that I've done, and that's more so the stuff I'm interested in.
Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah, all these things. It gets people interested in just getting the likes, getting the clicks, generating content, so they can feel less lonely, or feel like they matter, and it's really harmed them in so many ways. So I think that's a huge thing. So yeah, I don't know if I would pay for YouTube because it's actually really good, but I think YouTube, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that would be a model that could change. I think they make a ton of money on advertising on that. So.
Well, and you can do YouTube Premium for, I don't remember the
Yeah,
Canadian prices. Like it's like 15, 16, $17 a month if you
sure.
want no ads. I'm
Yeah,
very this close, but family plan, it's like even more money. But
yeah.
that's really tempting because YouTube ad load is getting
It
crazy.
is
And
getting kind of
LinkedIn,
crazy.
yeah. And LinkedIn, a lot of people pay for LinkedIn Premium accounts. There's different
Mhm.
flavors. There's recruiter accounts. There's
Yeah.
sales person accounts and so on. And that's how they make their money, not just from advertising, but a lot of
And just
these
to
premium accounts too.
and just to step back on the
Mhm.
whole, well, what about paying to tweet, that kind of thing? Well, you can go. I watch some videos, and they have, again, I don't know how to do it, but you can have streams where people pay to have their message pop up in bold, or with super chats or
Mhm.
whatever it is on different kinds of platforms. So that already exists. That kind of pay to have your message filter to the top is a pretty common thing, I think, in a lot
Mhm.
of streaming platforms. Yeah, maybe on Twitch or something. I've never used Twitch, so I don't know. But
I've heard that
yeah.
Twitter Blue users, I haven't confirmed this, but I heard a podcast today that was saying that the new Twitter Blue, that tweets from verified that blue check users would somehow float to the top and be
Mhm.
given preferential treatment. We can fact check that one. Tasia, how about you? And which social platforms would be important enough to you that you would actually pay a certain price to, be on them or stay on them?
YouTube was my pick as well.
Yeah. What about one of more the more networking oriented ones, as opposed to like a media consumption one? Anything?
I mean, I guess that would most depend what my work depends on. Do you
Gotcha.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
What
Which
about
it
you,
could
Tristan?
change.
Well, speaking of old men, I think YouTube is, I think we all agree that there's a lot of value in YouTube, and especially if it meant making ads go away. Like I'm this close to paying for YouTube Premium anyhow. LinkedIn for our business, I could see paying a nominal amount to stay connected to LinkedIn because we do use it for networking and connection and recruiting and whatnot from a business perspective. So this is a personal side and the business side for sure. But to be honest, of everything else that's out there, I mean, Twitter's fun, but it's not essential to my life. Maybe keep it for business, pay a nominal amount. But honestly, Facebook for me, because I
Mm.
have over 800 connections on Facebook. Could probably cut that in half, for closer connections. But in terms of the value I get from seeing what's going on in the lives of friends, family, seeing photos, getting a laugh, people sharing funny things on there. It's like Instagram is fine, but it still tends to be a lot more curated, and the variety of content is not as great, and you can't include links in their posts and stuff like that, so it's limited in its own weird ways. TikTok, I think, is a scourge on the face of the earth and should be wiped out. But its features have been infiltrating Instagram and Facebook and even YouTube. And we're going to talk about that in a second because everyone's trying to keep up with the juggernaut that is TikTok. But I think TikTok is problematic in a number of ways, and we're not going to get into that today because I could rant for half an hour on that.
Just on that?
So
Okay.
yeah, just on that. But for me, honestly, like from a personal perspective, aside from YouTube, it would be Facebook, because like that's where most people are that there's a few exceptions. We have some friends who are like non-Facebook people, and that's sad because it makes it a big pain in the butt when you're trying to organize stuff. And Facebook groups are amazing. Facebook Marketplace has a lot of value. It's decimating Craigslist, quite honestly, because
Mhm.
you can see if you happen to have any common connections with some of the sellers and whatnot. Facebook events can be good. Like again, if people are on Facebook, so there's lots of great stuff in there. Facebook Messenger, I could give or take. I do messaging in other ways and whatnot. But honestly, there's a lot there. So again, I sound like an old when I'm saying that, but for me, it'd be probably big old blue. But just as long as I don't have to strap a headset on my face.
I don't know. I think it looked pretty good in that headset, Tristan.
Yeah. Next topic, shall we? Unless anyone else has anything to say about this
No, go for it.
Twitter. Oh yeah, and, oh, just the one extra little thing we touched on this last week, Tasia, is the people that are squawking the loudest about this $8 for the blue check are the most elite of the elite. It's these people who already have their blue check marks anyway and can most afford to keep them. And now, like, I was getting this, I got to pay $8. That's a freaking rounding error. That's in your couch cushions easily. And these are the people that are squawking. That's the sense of entitlement from these elite Twitter users. I find mind-boggling. And it's like, okay, go ahead and see what kind of audience you can reach on Mastodon or whatever other micro.blog or whatever. There's so many different platforms have come and gone, and really it takes something quite dramatic for a new social platform to come and make a case for itself. TikTok being a more recent example, but there's not a lot of new things. So many things have come and gone, including like Ello was one that the people, oh, Ello's going to be the new Facebook. Like, it never happened. So you got to have something that tickles the same part of the brain as Twitter does for people, and is easy enough to onboard and has that critical mass of people. So there's a lot of people who are like rage quitting, and in a lot of cases they come back with their tails between their legs. And you know what? If they want to keep their precious blue check marks, maybe they can pay their $8 a month. Even you, Stephen King. Not that I have an opinion on this stuff. So anyway, that's why just don't even get me started. All right. So we touched on the influence of TikTok, and we've seen YouTube. We've seen, like, again, the Facebook and Instagram Reels stuff, the short videos. And I know, Tasia, you've even experimented a bit being a prominent and well-known YouTuber and influencer. Yes. But YouTube Shorts have been growing. And I consume most of my YouTube on the television, through the Apple TV, on the big screen TV, because I watch a lot of longer form content on YouTube and stuff, sometimes as short as 5 or 10 minutes, but sometimes as long as half an hour, or even longer. So I don't watch a lot of YouTube on a mobile device. And YouTube Shorts, is geared for mobile devices. A lot of vertical video. It's great, easy to consume. I think it does tickle that same part of the brain that TikTok tickles, which is the endorphins. It helps. I mean, it reinforces the whole short attention span thing. People scrolling until it's just. I think that's bad for our brains in general. But YouTube Shorts are getting more and more prominent placement in YouTube, including on the TV-based platform. So now we can enjoy vertical video on our freaking gigantic widescreen TVs, and we have pillar boxing for that. And I've seen that with some of the people that I follow on YouTube. Every once in a while, they throw a short in there. It's like, oh, great. I mean, I'll check it out, but it's like, well, that was empty calories, like most short content I find. And I get to like only use up a third of my screen to enjoy. Like, I'm not going to turn my screen sideways. But now there's talk about people selling or vertical TVs, or like turning their monitors sideways to enjoy the very big content on the large screen. It's just, this is, Jamie, you say you feel old sometimes. This is the kind of stuff that makes me feel old and makes me want to pull an Elvis on my television.
Yeah, well, it really, it really brings me back to the show / character of Max Headroom. It was very prescient in that the original Max Headroom movie, at least, the big enemy was Blipverts. It was basically the network was showing advertisements that were crammed into 3-second little blips, and it was making people's heads literally explode. So it was this whole sleuthing thing. But yeah, it's definitely empty calories. It's a thing. But you know what? I watch them. I will, if I'm just kind of like I just want to be distracted. I got this stuff in my head. I just want to get it out, and I'll just go through a few things, and I'll just be like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. That was an interesting little bit there. But I find what's interesting, though, is I think I pay less attention to any ads I'm fed, because I can just swipe past them if I'm doing it. So I think it's less effective when it comes to advertising. But maybe I'm getting used in another way for advertising on regular YouTube at that point. I don't really know. But it's I still film everything that I do on horizontal landscape mode. So I'm not
like an
planning to-
upstanding human being.
You know why people don't, I really don't get it, but it's just it's lazy. It's
Our
just
eyes are
lazy.
this way. Our eyes
I
are
know.
this way, right?
I know.
There's a video maybe I'll add it to the show notes about the perils of vertical video syndrome.
Yeah.
Tasia, okay, now you have to be the defender of the vertical video format and YouTube Shorts. It's all resting on your shoulders. Go.
I won't do it. I just won't defend it.
Good for you.
So I know why they're doing this though, because they're making changes to like the YouTube app and like YouTube on desktop and such. And so we're getting like tabs for our shorts. So like it's way better organization now because they're really pushing shorts.
Stick them in a tab. Sure, so I don't have to see them.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's just kind of like their next step. But to me, it's like the whole point of vertical video is because it's on your mobile device and it's on the go. Like I'm not going to sit down on my TV and watch a freaking short. It is not going to happen. And you can mark my words. Yeah. That is, I didn't get the most expensive TV when it was on sale for Black Friday a couple years ago. So I could watch a short. Okay.
Big black bars on the side.
Right. So I don't really
know. Get burn in.
Yeah. Like what their stats were in terms of people consuming that type of content on their television. Or why. I think it would have been a smarter decision to keep it purely mobile. And like, I mean, they have obviously pushed it on desktop as well, but like, I just think it would have gotten your user base up where you want them on mobile consuming it. Because like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they had data that showed them otherwise, but that is wild to me if people are watching shorts on their TV. I'm going to have to ask like my niece and nephew. We're going to have to go to the younger generation for this and be like, are you consuming this? They're probably like, what's a TV? I mean, I don't even know, like on a what?
Are they all monitors?
Yeah, exactly. So no, it's a hard no for me.
If we may make a modest proposal is that let mobile be mobile. Let TV be TV, and I said, I find it a nuisance because I have I basically watch, and everyone's different, right? So have people who have affordances for people who consume content in a variety of ways on said platforms. So on mobile, if they want to have tabs for regular content versus short content, or like vertical video and whatnot, cool. When I'm watching on my TV, I find it a nuisance having to scroll past because these creators, because they're so scared that if they don't do YouTube Shorts, that they're going to get algorithmed out of existence and not be visible anymore. And so that they're doing these things in a desperate attempt to stay relevant. But then like when I'm scrolling through my subscriptions, like I'm a completist, I go back to like the last thing I watched and then I work my way up and I see all these shorts littered in there. It's just clutter for me. So on the TV apps, whether it's on Apple TV or Roku, on Chromecast or what have you, like let's get those stuff in their own kind of tab as well. And so if you want to see them, you can see them, or even just have like a setting you could toggle, include shorts or don't include shorts. It's not rocket science, and just let the user be in charge, kind of like what Twitter is hoping to do someday with being what we talked about, allowing people to tag you or not, you having the control. Give the user control and let the market decide. Let the chips fall where they may. But trying to cram one format into a different
Yes. And even as a YouTuber, like I feel that exact way. Like I was kind of forced into it. I didn't really want to be creating shorts, and like I don't do them on a regular, consistent basis. Like I've just still been focusing on my long form content consistently, but pushing shorts every now and then to see like, okay, well, if you're telling me that's the way to get reach now, but I also don't like the look of it, whether it's I'm scrolling through my own or somebody else that I subscribe to, just having like those shorts pop up. It just is such a visual like break for me that it almost distracts me from like the rest of their content. And especially too, because like a lot of these channels, some do a really good job of like keeping their shorts within their niche or genre, but a lot of them are just like pushing shorts to push, and they have nothing to do with what their content of the channel was. And it's like, that's not why I subscribe to watch this stupid, whatever the heck you're lip syncing to. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, at least keep it in your niche.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Everyone's trying to wreck everything just because they're all chasing TikTok. Breaking news! I missed this. Came through almost an hour ago on the chat. New private dating chat from 69xxx.fun. So free promo
Sounds
for
like a safe
those
website.
specs. Yeah, totally not
Yeah.
going to compromise your device or your credit card
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
whatsoever. All right, let's wrap things up here. We're going long. This great
Mhm.
spirited discussion, love it. But Jamie, here's something.
Mhm.
Here's something for you, and I want to
Okay,
I want to get your
go for it.
honest take on it,
Oh, you'll always get honesty from me. Don't worry.
especially after we nuked the fridge. We know that there's
Mhm.
a new Indiana Jones movie coming, number
Mhm.
5, but there's talk that Disney Plus might do an Indiana Jones TV show. I'm not sure who would be playing Indy or what it's even about. But they're saying, oh, it might have Harrison Ford, even though he's not going to be in Indiana Jones 5. Like, does the world need an Indiana Jones TV series? Is Hollywood out of ideas, or is this a great way to build out the Indiana Jones universe? Because there was a TV series in the past, The Adventures of Young Indiana Jones, and something like that.
Yeah,
So
there's other stories that are involving
yeah.
Indiana Jones.
And I think of you as my personal Indiana Jones in a sense. So what are your thoughts on this? Would you watch an Indiana Jones TV series on Disney Plus?
I would watch anything on any streaming platform if the writing was of any quality. The problem is these days, anything that they have, any intellectual property, any sort of story, you're inundated with, for some reason, writers that don't know what they are doing, and they create poor stories that are not engaging nor interesting. And they seem to think that we want to watch entertainment not to be entertained, but to be preached to, or to have a some sort of put these things through some sort of ideological lens to teach us something. You know what? I'm totally fine with having a new story brought into me using Indiana Jones if it was well done, if it was actually done from somebody who understands what Indiana Jones is, what the character is about, why people enjoy it. It's like taking James Bond and turning James Bond into some, wimpy guy and saying, oh, well, we got to put a new James Bond out there because blah, 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 blah. Well, but that's not why I watch James Bond. It's not why I watch Indiana Jones movies, or why I can rewatch Indiana Jones movies again and again and again, because they're entertaining, because they're written properly. They're showing characters that are well developed. It's interesting, well acted. You got to have proper actors. So yeah, give me anything. Give me anything. I watch. I'm watching Andor right now on Disney Plus, and it's a much darker Star Wars type thing. I've been waiting for some proper Star Wars stuff to come out. It's actually been enjoyable. It's been fun to watch some kind of interesting Star Wars stuff. It's well written. You can see people care about Star Wars who actually watch that, and they understood what the property stood for, and then created something with it that other people who enjoy it would like. And but I don't think it's done well in the ratings at the same time.
Well, some people are saying it's too slow. It's like,
well, and yeah, but
blame
that's
TikTok.
okay. But that's okay. It's
Yeah.
it's well written, so I
Yes.
enjoy it. Other people, but it might not be what the masses want, so therefore they didn't do a good job. Not everything hits, but again, all I care about with any entertainment, just be entertaining.
Mhm.
Be entertaining. So it's something, and I've actually been watching a lot of. There's a YouTube guy by the name of Chato, and his channel is Call Me Chato, and I think he's Canadian, but he's a former network executive, and that's his channel. He's the former network executive, and so he talks about things from a network executive point of view and why things have been written, and very interesting to watch. And so I'm understanding why media is being done in a certain way, and it's fascinating. So just give me good entertainment. That's all I want.
Before I throw to Tasia, how many episodes of a new TV series do you give it before giving up?
Sorry, you're asking me or Tasia?
Yes. Yeah, you, Jamie.
Okay.
Before,
I don't have a number. You know
okay.
what? I let it determine, hey, okay, I can see this has potential. I'll watch some more.
Mhm.
It's fading away on me and I'm just not interested. So,
Yeah.
Rings of Power, for instance, I think I gave 4 or 5 because I just wanted it to work.
I heard
But
it
I
gets good
stopped.
by the end.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Spoiler.
But then there's on Apple TV the For All Mankind, which
Mhm.
I watched and I enjoyed it, and then I stopped watching it, came back to it, and then I think the most recent season got a few episodes in. I'm like, sorry, no, you
Yeah,
jumped the
it's this
shark. You
season's a bit of a
jumped the
mess.
shark.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
jumped the shark. It's done.
There's so much potential in the Mars storyline, but it's just like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Okay, how about you, Tasia? A, would you watch an Indiana Jones series, especially with Harrison Ford looking like that back in his prime? Or and how many episodes do you give any new TV series?
I mean, Indiana Jones, maybe.
Ooh, generation
I
gap.
give 2 to 3. By
Okay,
episode 3, your storyline and your character should be well established, and I should either be in it or you've totally lost me. I have a
all right,
very short window for that.
gotcha.
There's too much content out there to waste too much time on
Exactly.
stuff. Yeah.
And I
And
think
sometimes you don't want to sit there and be like, oh, once you get to episode, then it really gets. It's like, no. Like sometimes I don't want to be like I just want to get it,
yeah,
like
yeah.
there's
You want to be
too much
entertained.
stress. Yeah, there's too much
Entertain me.
stress going on. Yeah.
Yes.
I just
But
want
some
to
things
relax
some
for that
some things
time,
take time to pay off though. That's some of the streamers are wising up to that. Like Jamie,
which
you
is
mentioned
fine.
Andor. Yeah. But Jamie mentioned Andor, and if they'd only dropped the first episode by itself, or even the first two, a lot of people would have been like, check please, I'm out. It's too slow. Where's it even going? But Disney Plus was smart enough to drop the first 3 episodes together because they form a bit of like a cohesive story. It's almost like a mini movie. And they've been, even though subsequent episodes have been dropped weekly, they're kind of in these 3 episode arcs. So smart streamers will do that. They'll have an idea. It's like, okay, if we want to hook people, let's give them enough to chew on right out of the gate, rather than having them stew for a week on a single hour that just like didn't seem to go anywhere. At least if we give them 2 or 3 to get some momentum, that they'll get what the story that we're trying to tell. Because otherwise, it's like walking out of a movie, 44 minutes in. Like sometimes good storytelling takes time, especially when it's complicated, right? Like think of all the people that would have given up on the original Game of Thrones series, which we can mostly agree didn't end all that great, but there was a lot of good stuff in those 8 seasons. But it's complicated, and a lot of people would and it was slow. Like
No,
but
but
if it was,
the issue
yeah,
there is, but
yeah.
it was entertaining in those first few
Depending
episodes.
what your definition of entertainment was,
Well,
too.
yeah,
I mean, they
okay,
did the HBO. Let's throw a lot of sex and this
yeah,
violence on the screen and whatnot. And
a lot of people find that entertaining,
yeah,
titillating, whatever you want to call it.
yeah,
They grabbed people. If you don't grab people in those first few episodes,
mhm,
too bad. I'm
yeah.
sorry, you've lost the thread.
But that it speaks to the attention span, and like there's a lot of good books that take a while to get into, and that's even a bigger time commitment, right? So it's just, there's good art takes time. Sometimes good storytelling takes time, but I think it's incumbent on the streamers, the content platforms, to make sure that they're giving people enough to chew on out of the gate,
Yeah.
so they don't get frustrated. Because a lot of people would have given up on Android, and even some have, even though I mean, we have sung Andor's praises for ages here on the show, but let's move on. Oh, actually, one quick thing for you, Tasia. Is there a movie franchise from your past that you think could use a good serialized TV show treatment? Something that you would watch that hasn't been done yet?
A movie franchise?
Yeah, so we've got Star Wars TV series now. We've got all sorts of Marvel TV series.
Yeah.
We might have an Indiana Jones TV series. There's a lot of stuff like it's in the genre, but like Saved by the Bell or Cheer. I mean, those are TV series. Let's say a movie. What's a movie that you grew up with? Like, here's a stupid example from my youth. Like Gremlins. Wait, they could do a Gremlins TV series. I mean, maybe there was an animated series. I don't know, but maybe something a little bit more substantive than that. Can you think of a movie that you really want to spend more time with some of those characters, or an expanded universe that was introduced in a given movie from your youth?
I feel like it's all already happened. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like when I think of like Casper or things that like turned into
Yeah.
TV shows in some form, it's like, And the older I get, the more it's like, I get the whole nostalgia and wanting to do
Mhm, mhm.
remakes and reboot stuff, but there is something to be said for just leaving well enough alone and like remembering it as good as it was. Let's
Not
not taint
spoiling.
that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Like, for example, like, maybe like a Die Hard series could be interesting too. Like,
I would vote for Starship Troopers myself, although they have
oh,
done some sort of movie sequels and stuff. I just think that world, that universe, that subversive Verhoeven world is fascinating. It's
yeah, yeah,
almost like, yeah, it's almost like alternate history or alternate future or something.
for sure. Tasia, you were gonna, you did you?
Well, I was gonna say it's kind of the opposite, this one example, but one of the only reasons I had got Disney Plus originally was because I wanted to rewatch all of Lizzie McGuire, because when that I'm a big Hilary Duff fan, and when that
Uh-huh.
originally came out, I was like a little bit older, so I would catch episodes here and there, but I never really watched the series. So I was binging the whole thing because they were working on a reboot of it with like the original cast, and it was going to follow Lizzie McGuire, as a coming of age. She's like older, she's like, 29, 30, living in New York, single, blah, blah. And then Disney Plus went all like Jesus on her and was like, this is too much of like adult content. And she's like, I'm not going to dumb down what it would be like for a 29-year-old or 30-year-old living in New York. Like it was still falling under like a just the what's the just above PG or whatever. Like it wasn't like rated R sexual content. It was just like she wanted to stay true to what growing up would be like. And now
Mhm.
she's single in New York at a certain age. And it was too mature for Disney. So now I'm pissed because it's like, that was the one reason I got that. So
There's a
whatever.
reason why they didn't keep on with Hannah Montana. Anyhow, Tasia, while we're
Yes,
talking about
because
coming of
females aren't allowed to come of age and age like that. So
well,
anyway.
I'm going to counter that point with your pick of the week,
Mhm.
which we have right here. Speaking of coming of age, what do you
Yes,
got
so
for
my pick
us?
of the week is Selena and Chef. So this Brett and I got into this during quarantine, and this is when Selena Gomez, the singer, actress, activist, she started this during quarantine just to like have this little project where the production quality is outstanding because they've totally rigged up her kitchen with like a bunch of cameras, and then they live feed in a chef from somewhere in the world, and she has to learn along in real time cooking with a world-class chef, and she has zero skills in the kitchen. So it is wild the amount of time she cuts her finger. Like I can't even watch her like use a knife anymore because it's so intense, but she's gotten so much better. So now anyway, the fourth
Oh,
season has come out, and it's really fun. She just keeps doing it even though obviously we're not like in a quarantine situation anymore because it's on HBO Max, and I'm not sure if that's the same in Canada or not. But
it'll be on Crave
um,
probably here.
Mhm.
yeah, and so because it's done so well and she's had so much fun doing it, they just kept going. So even though like it's not necessarily like she has to do it from quarantine, it just worked. The method worked, and it's nice to see her progression and like actually getting better at learning how to do all these crazy recipes in the kitchen. So we've just started season 4, which we're pretty excited about. It's just a cute,
Oh,
easy watch.
I
Brett
grew up.
likes to cook, so
Hmm.
that's why he's into it. Like it's nothing to do with Selena Gomez. Like we didn't even know
Hmm.
what it was. There was like no promo for the show when we first got into it, and we were like, oh, I don't know, want to put this on? Okay. And then we really liked it. So it's
And
cute. She has her little friends there, her pop and her grandma. And like, like they come in and help sometimes, but it's a very casual, like, it's just her cooking in her kitchen. And they always give back every episode. So the chefs donate 10,000. Well, sorry. She, on behalf of the chef, donates $10,000 to their charity of choice. So you learn all about that too.
they grow
Nice.
up so fast, don't they?
I know, it's great.
Jamie's pick of the week is decidedly different than that. One
Yeah,
that I wanted to do as a pick of the week someday, but I haven't watched it yet.
I watched it
Tell us,
last night. I
and
had
it
the rest of the
being
family was playing a game, Crimes of the Future, David Cronenberg. So just even watching the trailer, I can tell you, yeah, it's intense. It's a Cronenberg film. That's for sure. So it's not for the squeamish. It's not for the weak of stomach or the weak willed. It's I don't want to give away too much about it. It's not a horror movie.
Oh, well, it could be classified as body horror, perhaps,
I suppose so. It's
which is a
very
Cronenberg specialty. Yeah.
it's just sort of like disturbing. It's just, okay, this is
Yeah.
disturbing, but it's an interesting take. It's a little, again, I don't want to sort of,
Yeah.
it's not really about ruining it, but it's a little on the nose. Some of the acting is questionable. You know, Viggo Mortensen is great. He's fantastic in it. Some of the concepts are like, wow, is that possible? And I believe it's a Canadian film.
Yeah,
I'm
ish.
not
Like he's a Canadian
ish.
director, so
Yeah. So it's kind of got a lot of some
there's
CanCon.
a gate. This video is not intended for all audiences. Enter birthday to view age restricted video. So it
Yeah.
played like half the trailer, and
Yeah.
now to get into the rest of it, we've got to.
Yeah.
I just want to read read the synopsis here. Humans adapt to a synthetic environment with new transformations and mutations. With his partner Caprice, Saul Tenser, celebrity performance artist, publicly showcases the metamorphosis of his organs in avant-garde performances.
Yeah,
Tasia, is that appealing to you, Tasia?
That tells you the show.
Sure.
Definitely Cronenberg-esque.
Yeah, for me, I think I wanted something a little more. I had time to myself to watch this. I'm like, okay, I'm going to give it a go. And in some of the cinematography is great. It's kind of beautiful.
Weird.
It's weird, but you're like, oh, okay, I see where this is extrapolated from. I understand how they kind of got to this. Again, a little on the nose in some cases, but hey, you know what? It's just different, and it kind of pushes things a little bit, pushes the boundaries. And anyways, I would say, hey, if you want something weird, and you know, it's no Dark City, but it's got that same sort of conceptual, oh, that's interesting, what if that sort of happened. Again, watch Dark City if you haven't watched that from like 25 years ago.
Big time. If only movies like this were available in like 10-second clips on social media, that we get just enough body horror to tide us over for a couple of days. My pick, very quickly, is something that we watched two movies or movie-esque type things on Halloween. Stephanie is not huge into horrors per se, but she doesn't mind stuff that's a little monstery, a little creepy. And we watched on Disney Plus. One of the two things we watched was Werewolf by Night, which was a black and white made for TV movie, which basically nowadays means made for streaming in a lot of cases. And it was it's representative of where the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going to be going in the next phase or so, where there's going to be more monsters and more cosmic. And there's a character in here who's reminiscent of Blade, who there's been talk of Blade being introduced to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as formerly played by Wesley Snipes back in the 90s, I believe it was. There are some other characters who they may have a future in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well. And to my astonishment and excitement, because I was not expecting this at all. And it's not a spoiler because I believe it's in, if not the trailer, in some of the other promotional materials and videos out there, Man-Thing, which is, there was two very similar characters that emerged in Marvel and DC almost simultaneously. I believe in the 60s, there was Man-Thing and there was Swamp Thing. And they're both kind of swamp type creatures, amazing amount of pathos, especially given their backstory and whatnot. They were the characters were actually created by roommates who were working for the two different comic book companies at the time. So, and apparently they were both inspired by another original source as well, further back in time. But Man-Thing is this type of swamp creature that it turns out in the comics is the guardian of a cosmic portal in the Everglades. And I've read that there may be some tie into future Marvel movies featuring Doctor Strange and whatnot. And it gets very, very weird. But the vibe of this short movie was cool. It was shot in black and white. It wasn't amazing, but it was just like a little teaser of where things could go. And it was a good little Halloween sort of treat, at least in my books. So that is Werewolf by Night on Disney Plus. And after our projects, before we wrap up, Jamie, you got a little project you shared with us this week.
Oh,
what is this about?
It's not really a project per se, but it's some product that I'm starting to use. This was an interesting one. It's an LED under cabinet under upper cabinet light. Me being a kitchen designer, it's a light that you can have just as a light, but you can also have USB, so you can combine just a regular
Oh,
light and also USB plugs. There you go. Yeah, I thought that
that
would
is
kind of get a
so
reaction.
smart.
Exactly. So again, this is a new product that
You
I
got a
can
customer,
supply my
Jamie.
clients. There you go.
Zero,
And
100%.
and then it keeps things off the counter. You don't have to plug it into outlets. It's just part of the light fixture itself. You tap the light fixture. There's a video that shows further down, I think, of how it works in there. So accept the cookie request at the bottom of your screen,
Oh,
probably,
good
to do
gravy.
that. Yeah, I know. Anyways, it
It's
doesn't
not
really
even
matter,
showing up.
but
Yeah.
oh, isn't it? Okay. So in any case, it's an interesting way of there's the electrics that are under your upper cabinets now for lighting. Why not have USB cords there that you can plug into? And they're sort of front facing, or they at least tip out a little bit so you can see where you're plugging into. So it's great for when I'm designing kitchens, to give people that option of having a USB plug-in when they're trying to charge or just trying to use something, a tablet, and have it powered up.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
So we look forward to seeing photos from installs that you've done
You
featuring these,
betcha.
and maybe in a future appearance. But
Mm-hmm.
this is what the world needs: smart lighting with USB jacks for all our devices that we're constantly having to charge up.
That's right.
And Tasia, this is something that you don't have a video this week because you're taking the week off for self-care, which I think it's good. It's good to have some me time. By the way, I watched a movie called Me Time over the weekend. Not great. And although it was okay, it had Mark Wahlberg, and
The Funky Bunch.
Yes, the Funky
Mhm.
Bunch.
Oh, good.
Oh, I know that. I know Kevin
Who's the
Hart.
actor, the comedian, the short black comedian?
Kevin Hart.
Yes, Kevin Hart. It was
I like Kevin Hart.
fine. It was fun. I mean,
It was not great.
yeah, it was exactly. It was not great. So not my
Oh,
pick of the week,
good.
but me time. So that's a little. Oh, we lost Jamie again. Jamie,
No,
why does
I'm
Jamie
back.
keep dropping
No,
off?
the connection, I think, dropped for everybody there. I don't know.
Very strange. So Tasia, so you had a different sort of project, and this was for Halloween. Tell us about this. It looks very cool.
I transformed into 11 from Stranger Things, and my friend, who's like an awesome editor, I just like stood against like one of my walls with like nothing on it and was like posing to my camera. And then I sent him like the raw shot and then that background, because that's from the Nina project, which is something about season 4. And then I sent him another background of like she's laying in the submersion tank, and I was like, so can you just, real quick make it look like I'm standing there or in the submersion tank? And so like he photoshopped like the cap on my head in the submersion tank, and the blood, and she's got like television screens, like monitors all around her. There's like water on her arms. Like he did a phenomenal job. And so that's was amazing. What I was for Halloween. Yeah, it was a super fun project. The wig got very tight and uncomfortable during a Halloween party, and that had to come off after about like an hour and a half. But yeah, it was pretty fun.
What did Brett dress as?
So I don't want to make a spoiler if no one's seen season 4.
Okay.
But he went as a character from season 4.
Okay, we'll offline that one. Very cool. And so are you back to your regular video schedule this Thursday?
Yeah. I'm working on one. So one will go out Thursday. So it's like tech shopping weeks coming up, like now through the end of the year, basically. It's like, so yeah. So the one actually that's going to come out on Thursday is going to be price tracking tools and extensions. So how to track prices on Amazon to know if you're actually getting a deal when they say it's a deal. Is it? I'll tell you how to find out.
Nice.
At
youtube.com/nerd
alert. And Jamie, if you happen to be on Twitter, people can follow you at twitter.com/jaskray. Looking forward to your reinvigorated.
Maybe I'll give it a go. Yes, start putting out all my political hot takes on things.
Exactly, gotta have those hot takes.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And the thing I love about hot takes is that people don't really think too much, and they just put it out there, and then they delete it afterwards, and they realize how wrong they actually were.
Yeah, very true.
And you can find out more about us at momentous.tv/links. Thank you to the incomparable Jamie Reynolds for joining us this week. It's been far too long. We really appreciated having you join Tasia and me. and hopefully, keep Will in your in his family in your thoughts. We hope to have him back next week, and Gray and a week after that when he's back from his undisclosed location. But until then, we hope your week is truly momentous.
Momentous.
Moment.